You know, when you come with a name, it's quite easy to be able to discuss partnership activity, but when you're doing it for yourself and you're just starting, it's very challenging.
I transfer what I've learned over the years of my traveling and my education now into my canvas, into my creations.
Also focusing around building out a creative society, so really educating, encouraging debate and ideating around AI creativity.
Are you focused on AI within your industry?
For me, AI is how can I extend beyond the canvas?
It's obviously now being integrated into our lives.
What do people often get this wrong to build a brand?
I can't remember where this quote comes from, but someone once said that perfection is the opposite of good. Sometimes you don't need to get everything perfect. Sometimes good is okay.
What are the benefits in collaborative in the business world?
In a collaboration, you can achieve extraordinary results.
It's a lot of sliding into people's DMs, and sometimes, like with Lara, they are kind enough to reply, and then something incredible and beautiful comes from it, and you're extremely lucky, as I've been.
I want to talk about especially this generation, Gen Z. Welcome to Manners Maketh Mic, the podcast where we talk about real life stories. Stories that revoke the world we live in. I'm your host, Eric Francis Manu. Here we talk about honest conversations that define who we are in global settings, etiquette, diplomacy, good manners, entrepreneurship. Today's episode is something we all admire, hardly spoken about. We see amazing brand from luxury, arts, businesses, even the global market, banking, you name it. Education, you name it. But behind this brand, we forgot what is behind that. Decisions that leaders make, tough decisions that do behind the scene. Decisions that either could change the company or break the company. And that could be culture, etiquette, good manners. And today's episode, not different, but different in a respectful way. Because I have two amazing, wonderful ladies that I call friends. Friends I've known for 3 years and then a few months ago. But they are amazing, respectful individuals with their own business. And I have wonderful Lara. Welcome to Manners Maketh Mic.
Hi, Eric. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you, Elizabeth. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for having us.
Excellent. Hello, Ellie. Welcome to Manners Maketh Mic.
Hi, Francis. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So I like that she called me Francis because I call her Liz. Well, it's Ellis. So that is how we do in this podcast. We make it fun, interactive, engaging. Lara, I'm going to let you start with. So do you want to tell us about who you are and what is your brand does?
Well, my name is Lara Julian. I am an artist. And my expertise is color interactions and color combinations, exploring color combinations. Originally, I was born in Siberia, in Russia. I lived in New York, and I'm in London for almost 12 years. I would say that I am an artist and a brand. And some people, they like to come to my exhibition to have conversations with me about art because they found it very inspirational. And this is why I think that the personality of the artist is important as well as their masterpieces.
I'm going to dive in here before I bring Ellie on board. I read your bio and your parents are pioneering artists.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Of course. I think that being an artist is in my blood because I was born in a very creative family. My father, he's a figurative painter, and my mother, she's also an artist and an art historian, and my grandmother was a poet.
Wow.
So we had a very extensive library of books about art and art history, and I took inspiration from all these beautiful paintings and Renaissance art from a very little age. And now I'm here and I transfer what I've learned over the years of my traveling and my education now into my canvas, into my creations.
I'm eager to hear more how this came about. But let's dive into Ellie. Elizabeth, we met when Lara invited me to exhibition and I saw Wawa and I asked myself, Wawa, what is Wawa? So Elizabeth, please tell us about yourself and what is Wawa brand, please.
So I'm Elizabeth. I'm a luxury marketing, AI and art consultant, and I'm the founder of the Wow Wow Gallery, which is soon to be House of Wow.
Wow, House of Wow. Now you've revealed it.
I have. Me and Lara became acquainted last year when we worked together on a limited edition collaboration, which exhibited at the Saatchi Gallery in London, which is where we had the pleasure of meeting for the first time. The Wow Wow Gallery was born last year. It's actually being rebranded at the moment, though. So that's TBC for this upcoming year. But yes.
So here you go. House of Wow.
How we started last year was, so the Wow Wow Gallery essentially specializes in hybrid printing. So we use lenticular, which is things like 3D or short motion prints, and augmented reality. And we work with a plethora of different artists on short edition collaborations. Our main kind of bread and butter is working with AI and digital artists. So all the fantastic people you see creating wonderful worlds on digital platforms at the moment. But we also work with artists that are established within their own mediums and within their own rights and bring them into this fun material. That is going to be carrying on into this upcoming year, but we're also focusing around building out a creative society. So really educating, encouraging debate, and ideating around AI creativity.
Sticking to AI, Lara, I've seen some of your work since we last met, almost about 3 years now. Are you focused on AI within your industry? Tell me more. I mean, AI is now the go-to. What is your view?
Well, it's an interesting question, Eric, because I think that Elizabeth inspired me to have this wonderful project with a limited edition of my prints. Well, I am an expert in working acrylic on canvas and creating original masterpieces, original paintings. And AI, I think that's, for me, it was challenging to explore what can I do with AI, like exploring my potential. So for me, AI is how can I extend beyond the canvas? Well, and I think that collaboration with Elizabeth was very successful because it's a different dimensions of art that I can explore, as well as I can explore writing about my art or creating immersive experiences or just a painting. And I think there is an expression when they say painting is not an object, it's an experience. And with 3D printing, it's amazing because paintings, they transform, they engage, they move, and it creates a wow effect. And we were very pleased how the collaboration went, and we are waiting more to come.
Elizabeth, you are into this brand, changing the new name or rebranding. So my question is, we all admire big brand, right? You got brand, Lara got brand. With your experience, what do people often get it wrong to build a brand? What do people often get this wrong?
I think there's probably a few things. So for a bit of context, my background is luxury marketing, and I've worked for some very big companies and then more recently moved into consulting. So I've worked with some smaller companies. And then obviously underwent the process in the last year or so of starting my own brand. I think as women, we are very detail oriented and we want everything to be perfect all the time. And I can't remember where this quote comes from, but someone once said that perfection is the opposite of good. And I think it's very true that sometimes you don't need to get everything perfect. Sometimes good is okay. And where a lot of brands, I do think, kind of falter slightly is they're so focused on wanting to create incredible content, particularly now. There's so much content out there. It's a competition on everything. People's attention span is less than 3 seconds. So you want to be delivering the best you can. But, if you go through gaps of not being present, that's where you're then losing your amazing community's interest. So I think it's kind of just consistency, actually, is where a lot of brands are struggling right now, because there is just so much activity going on and you want to break through that noise, but actually just existing is important.
Within that, Lara, arts is a big industry. We know that. And now you've got AI. Following up from Elizabeth, what have you experienced that has gone wrong, but you're able to turn around?
I think that it takes time. And I think that especially younger artists, they want a quick success. And I think that for me, it's very important to pay attention to detail. And my production of my paintings is very slow. And I really take time to think about each of my paintings. Well, and it's really important to take time to allow things to develop natural way, and also be thoughtful, be strategic, and educate yourself as much as you can in order to produce good quality art. So my approach is probably a bit different from Elizabeth in terms of I would like to create a very limited series of paintings that are timeless. And I try to be very selective in the projects I take part. And I'm not in a rush to update my Instagram too often or to post a lot of things on LinkedIn, because I think that the right people will find me. The essence of my practice is to create meaningful paintings and engaging paintings.
Elizabeth, diving into that, you've mentioned amazing point, education. We know that statistics says 80% business that starts collapse within the first 2 or 3 years. You work with brand consultant in different industries. What, in your experience, that turn out to matter less in your field, or areas that you feel that I should have done it differently?
Gosh, that's a bit of a slightly alarming statistic there. No pressure. That's a tough one. I suppose it's very important to be adaptable in everything you're doing. And that's probably a slight issue maybe entrepreneurs have in starting a brand. You go in with a set idea of, I've got this product, I think it's going to be amazing. And you miss that link of actually you need to be looking from the perspective of your audience or your clients. So it's not necessarily that, the product's wrong, it's maybe the messaging of it, or, you've just got the wrong time, or just there's something that perhaps just needs a slight adaptation and it's perfect, but people are so tunnel visioned about how they imagine something, they miss the trick because they can't then adapt, and I think AI obviously is a very good example of how much that's, making moves around the world at the moment.
Lara, you've got established brands, which I do admire, and I love your work. Listen to Elizabeth, and also statistics would know that brand do collapse in the first 2 years. We do know. I mean, my experience, I've collapsed many times, and I'm still trying to achieve. What in your areas, your industry, what is the figures looks like? So I know you mentioned education. I want to talk about, especially this generation, Gen Z, that things have to be faster and glamorous. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those that within your industry that are coming up, but listen to what you've experienced, not to be speed in that area, but take your time?
I think that, as I mentioned, practice takes time. In order to develop your style in your art, you need to practice and create as many paintings not as many paintings as you can, but in terms of thinking. So it's a combination between your thought process and where you want to be and your practice. So it's very important to be creative all the time and support your creativity. Also, I think that nowadays, yes, we live in a very fast-paced world. However, the meaningful connections are very important, and to surround yourself with like-minded people and other artists and other art professionals, and take inspiration from each other and support each other. This is very important.
Ellie, good point here, connection.
Beautiful point.
We know that social media has become biggest. We connect each other. I mean, we've all met through LinkedIn, which is amazing. But we also know that this generation, we call it Gen Z, have different approach. What is, with you, your brand, Wawa, now about to be rebrand, what do you tell to younger version about connecting in the right way? Because everyone connects on social Instagram and then look at people's profile. But what is the best connecting people can have to add value to their business?
I think the short answer to that is connecting in person with each other. I think the kind of significant context behind that is, as you just said, we're in a very kind of turbulent moment right now. And I actually think we're seeing a bit of a shift in that most people are getting a bit fatigued with the digital life. I think social media, it's, like 24/7. You have the short gaps where you pull out your phone and have a quick TikTok scroll.
With some laugh.
Yeah. And, the AI stuff is going crazy. I mean, like I saw something the other day that was a creator who had, videos of like celebrities. And I was like, oh my God, is this real? And you didn't know. And, now I'm a bit like, oh my gosh, I've just had enough. And I think that's going on with everyone, that you kind of want this shift back into analog almost. And I suppose that's a little bit what I'm doing. I think, the digital and AI-driven art and artists that I'm working with, I love the content they're creating. They create beautiful pieces. It's just about them bringing that into a physical and real experience. And we love experiences as human beings. I mean, we love storytelling. We love being engaged visually. So it's just kind of bringing that back into our day-to-day lives. And as I said, the short answer is, and will always be, we thrive off of engaging with one another. People love people. We're a community-based species.
Lara, I mean, before COVID, we all used to meet coffee and you name it. After COVID, most of us, majority again, at least right, with connection, with face-to-face, in person. But we know that this generation, Gen Z, they don't like that. They want to be on their phone and talking and chatting. Even my son, I mean, I'm good at etiquette, so he's able to communicate with me. But most of his peers spend most of the days on the phone without talking to people real life. So what can they do? What can they do, this generation, the Gen Z?
Well,
especially your industry.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
Well, I think that using iPhone, using AI, it's very supportive, in terms of developing yourself. Also, we can create and choose content nowadays that we would like to look at. Because, for example, I'm following the galleries I like. And I know my niche, the style where I'm working. And also, I think that's a balance. It's a combination between having a time with your family and your friends, like you mentioned, your son, then having your work time and your, well, for example, for me, it's important to spend some time on doing office admin. I cannot avoid. and also having time for yourself and time for relaxation. I like walking, for example. I live near Hampstead Heath and I like to walk. It's time to recharge and come back with new ideas and reborn in some way. And then you can go to party and engage and do networking and meet people. And then you can spend some time on Instagram or LinkedIn and say hello to everyone and answer emails and stuff. So I think that I prefer balance and combination. It's a good combination between online and offline and in person, and me time, which is also important, especially for me as an artist, because I take my inspiration within.
I like the meantime. I wish I could have that. I try.
You don't get enough walks in during your day, huh? You start wandering around the heath.
Yes, you do. Lara, I want to come here. Sorry, Elizabeth. You are about to change your brand. Yes. Rebranding. And the question is, what are some of the tough decisions that you've made for this brand? Why? Because audience want to know why 1 year you want to change the brand. What is core behind this?
I think in answering this, I'm perhaps going to admit a slight failure on my behalf here in that, as I said, I launched the brand last year. I was a little bit going in, I suppose, inexperienced. You know, I'm an expert in luxury marketing. I have a background in art and I love it, but I haven't been really working in the art space recently. And I just had this great product and I was like, this is it. I want to deliver this to people. So, you know, I managed to curate a selection of artists that I'm still not quite sure how I convinced them to work with me, but they've worked with me, created these beautiful pieces. But it's a tough economy out there at the moment and people don't have a lot of disposable income. And if they do, understandably, they're perhaps not spending it so much on art, and particularly art that is very different. So I had to make the decision really to pivot on it slightly. And as I said, I think the landscape is, if people are spending money, it's on experience, which I'm doing it myself, so I totally understand. So it's not, you know, stop doing what you're doing. It's, again, this element of adaptability. So that's part of what led to this rebranding. The other part was that I kind of started being involved in this world of AI artists and digital artists, and I was just totally enamored with it. And I just also feel there is a gap there, which is leading a big part of what I'm doing with the rebrand, that, you know, the focus is not just offering this hybrid printing anymore, but it's forming a creative society that, you know, I think it's there. It just needs to be cajoled by someone a little bit.
Excellent. Good response. Lara, I'm going to dive in here. So a brand that about to be rebranded, less than a year. You've been for a long time now. What is your secret? To maintain
Yes,
this brand?
Cheryl, please. I want to know.
Well, that's an unexpected questions. Unexpected question. Well, I think that working in original paintings, with original art, with original paintings, as you know, nowadays, for example, artists, they don't sign their paintings. They create a signature brushstroke. And then you need to have consistency. So my secret, which is probably not a secret, it's a hard work and consistency. And going to your studio, creating pieces every day, learn from your mistakes, and accept, you know, like, okay, you know, I made a mistake, I didn't have enough experience, and don't afraid to kiss a lot of frogs.
I like that. Okay.
Because you develop and you move forward, and at some point, the brand will create itself when it will be an accumulative effect with your effort, your priorities, you're focusing on work, creating a meaningful paintings, your message, what do you want to say in your artwork, and then don't just expect that you will be called a brand. That will happen naturally and organically as a result of your work.
Mistakes. So again, this question to both of you, Lara and Elizabeth. What mistakes that you've done with your brand that went AWOL? How did you turn it around?
Oh my gosh.
Again,
how long do you have?
So Ellie, you as marketing consultant, you have many clients that you advise, that you support them. So you could use so what are the mistakes that you felt that they had that you could turn things around? And then Elizabeth, Lara, your brand, please.
Well, I mean, Lara did just give a kind of fantastic answer, I suppose, on this topic. I'm actually going to perhaps take issue slightly with the question, you know. I don't like the word mistake. I think it's a learning curve all the time.
I like that. Okay.
And, you know, as you just said, my remit is marketing, and obviously particularly digital, as that's the, as you said, Gen Z obsession of the here and now. You know, and it's trial and error. You can post something one day, it's a disaster, post it the next day, it's gone viral. So never a mistake. It's always, you know, you being on the journey and learning, and as Lara said, kissing lots of frogs along the way.
Let's dive in. We'll come back with that mistakes. I want to hear more about that. Lara. So AI has transformed businesses and impacted industry leadership. I'm into education. I'm into training with my company. And you both mentioned AI a lot. What do you see this impacting business? What is advantage of this area? Because you're both into AI. So the question is that how do you see this impacting industry and leadership?
Well, I think that AI has been incredibly helpful for me because I use it on a daily basis to research and to any help I can get, in terms of, and also I work in different programs, and I was not afraid to learn, about AI when it's appeared, and well, I think it improves the quality of leadership, on my opinion. However, I'm more focusing on creating original artwork. So for me, my world is probably me and my art more than me and AI, because Elizabeth probably more expert on AI.
We come to you, Elizabeth. Like I said, it's a big world, and AI has become our norm.
Yes. Yes, it has.
Please. So how does this impact leadership in industry?
I mean, that's a loaded question because there are so many ways that it's obviously now being integrated into our lives, and it's still a very fast moving space. I think we're going to maybe start to see the dust set a little bit in this upcoming year. I think,
You mean slow pace?
Yeah, because we've seen, you've got Gemini, Claude, Chat GPT, and they've all been new updates every single week. And I think we're now reaching that point where they're kind of slowing down, that we've now got, each has kind of got their specific remit that they're great for, and they're that tool. And, it's going to slow, I think, ultimately. But I think I somewhat just gave a bit of a hint of my opinion there in that answer, that it is a tool. I maintain that AI is phenomenal. Like, I'm totally obsessed with it. I would call myself an expert, but I don't like that word because I think the more you know, the less you know in life. So I call myself an AI lead. But yeah, it's a tool that enables creativity. It's no difference to, the artist picking up a paintbrush, the photographer grabs their camera, a data girl uses Google Analytics. Mm-hmm. It's the same concept, and it's about how we're going to utilize it. Obviously, you can use it for general efficiency, like we all do with, LLMs. I certainly ask LLMs way too much now in my day-to-day life. But I generally believe that it's going to enable us to remove all the administrative and boring tasks in our day and allow us to kind of go back to creative brainstorming, which I think will be great.
Leading to that, to leadership. So we know that big company, big brands are now, when you go to board meeting, talk about AI. How is it impacting leadership? Because some of the educations or companies are not aligned with AI. Do you think it's a long-term good for leadership to utilize AI? Or do you think that we should still stay back and see how it goes?
I don't think there's a right or wrong about it. I think you're going to start to see, particularly within the luxury industry, those people that are experts at their craft and have spent years, learning traditional ways to do something, and AI doesn't fit in that. Good. And that is fine. In fact, that's great. It shouldn't fit in that. Then you're going to get people that maybe that's their remit, but they want to test it and play around with it and see what, how it can further enable what they're doing, which is phenomenal. Then you're going to get the people that it's going to completely, revolutionize what they're doing. And it's about finding which of those boxes it sits in. I think it's important not to be scared of it. I think that's where, if businesses react in that way, they're going wrong, because it's, as I just said, it's a tool. It's deciding where it's going to sit, if it's going to sit. Yeah.
So we should embrace it.
Pardon?
We should embrace.
Yeah, I think at least play around with it, test it before we make the decision to definitely, remove it from the catalogue.
You both work together in collaborative, and I want to hear the story behind that. What are the positive aspects of collaborative? Because our audience want to know how to collaborate with each other and with big brand, small brand. So, Lara, I'm coming to you. You collaborate with Wawa, and that's where I met Elizabeth. You've collaborated with many companies and venues. What are the benefits in collaborative in the business world?
Well, it's a great question. Thank you very much. I think that in a collaboration, you can achieve extraordinary results. A team, a great team. You know, Alexander's great, and his companions conquered the world. So it's metaphorical, but in some way it's true, because the one person, it's not possible, and especially in this fast-paced world and AI and the content and all of it. So, well, I had an amazing collaboration, and I have an amazing collaboration with Elizabeth. First of all, because she's a wonderful person, and this is important for me because I value my time, and one of my values also is respect to people and respect to each other, and speaking the same language. So I think we have an understanding. We have, in some way, similar but different goals, but we are very excited about some projects we are working on, and we are very supportive of each other, and we are very honest. Well, it's all, and it actually generates momentum, and also it will attract and more amazing opportunities. One of them is just being here now, because we were open to come here and to explore and to share our thoughts with the audience. And I hope it is helpful and inspirational.
Amazing. Thank you, Lara, for being thoughtful. Ellie, what do you want to add up? You as a consultant, I'm sure you work with many organizations, and of course, working with Lara. How did this partnership works, and what advice we give to people out there, entrepreneurs, business owners, Gen Z, that, like Lara said, is important. So what do you want to add up?
I definitely think that Lara is the expert on this. For me, it's actually a newer element to what I'm doing, because partnership activity I've worked in before, it's always somewhat been hidden behind me working for another brand, and it's usually a brand that has a bit of gravitas. So, when you come with a name, it's quite easy to be able to discuss partnership activity, but when you're doing it for yourself and you're just starting, it's very challenging, and you really have to put yourself out there. It's a lot of sliding into people's DMs, and sometimes, like with Lara, they are kind enough to reply, and then something incredible and beautiful comes from it, and you're extremely lucky, as I've been. And sometimes you're ghosted. Yeah. Such is life. But I do really think it is the grounding of everything. As I said earlier, I think we're watching a big shift happen right now in the world, where people want to be a bit more community driven again and see each other in person. And I think obviously, partnerships and collaborations are, an example of that coming to fruition. People are very important.
Okay. Lara, let me dive in here. So I think Lara is why, Ellie is why, with regards to partnership and having expertise in your area. What has been your biggest partnership that gone well? And second question is that, which partnership that went horrible wrong, and why?
Oh, wow.
It's a tough question.
Oh, wow. Well, I would say that some partnerships I enjoy more than other. And my choice is, my objective is that I love to work with professionals. And I love when people are respectful and they are quick to, they make decisions. And it's better to when you make a decision rather than instead of just being, stretching time and, no decision. And from my perspective, one of my successful collaborations was with the Bonhams Auction, because they are great professionals, great team, and other collaborations working with galleries. And I love when my art is beautifully and professionally presented. Also, I like to collaborate with or work with the same team. So I like consistency. I already mentioned it. And I like attention to detail. For example, I work with the same curator for 7 years. I work with the same shipment company for art for many years. And I see how we grow. So we grow and develop as brands, and we are still together and supportive. Well, the collaborations, I just don't take bad collaborations. I'm very honest. I don't want to waste your time or others' time. So I see that it won't fit. So I think that it would better for them to consider the other option, as well as for me to invest myself in something that can bring amazing results.
You mentioned honest, and I want to pick that word here. Before you pick a partnership, I mean, you work with early, amazing. Do you choose the partnership based on the person or based on the products? The reason is that, of course, both work hand in hand. Without the person, there's no brand or there's no products. How do you choose your partnership? Because for me, as etiquette consultant, I pick my partnership based on criteria, the fit of my values, my goals, my objective. But you, different industry, which is one of the biggest, billions of within. How do you choose these individuals? How do you choose partnership?
Well, I would like to give a very simple example. As I mentioned, I work with the same curator for a few years. And when I first worked with him, the results were impressive. So, and if you know from, I'm not a sales expert, but from sales, you know that people buy results.
Correct.
They don't need a process. They are not experts. And for me, when I saw the work, how the work is presented, so that was for me super important. And I understand that this person would be great for me. But also, as I said, the personality and the person behind the art, or who is the person behind the art. As people always, they want to have me to present in my exhibition because they want to connect with the person behind the art. And I think that it is also important, because I would probably cannot work with someone who is arrogant or someone who is selfish. I think that mutual understanding is important. And Elizabeth, for example, she did a great job on selecting artists, and we had an amazing time at the Saatchi. So it was successful. You never know, really. You start and you test, you try, and it's an experience if it's not working, so you can always change. And partnerships and collaborations, they are just for one project, few projects, and then you move on and you say, okay, I can do that better, or I'm not going to do it the next time. So it's very flexible. It's like very fast.
Etiquettes and manners for me are personal to me. I want to hear your view. Do modern businesses still operate within that area, etiquette and good manners?
Oh, that's a tough question, I myself am, big on British etiquette.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did a terrible colloquialism earlier of cup of tea or bread and butter or something.
I'm sure you're fine.
It's a tough one, I think, with, as we said, like Gen Z, I think are a very different generation. And mannerisms are very different. I, specialize in the luxury space, so I'm always around them. And, I think brands that have, I don't know if I would phrase it as good manners or good traditions, good intentions, it will always come across. But I also think you could be a successful brand now, perhaps leveraging bad manners. And that somewhat almost becomes good manners based on the storytelling of it. It's a difficult one. I think it's definitely not as, black and white as it used to be in what was good or bad manners. And obviously, especially being in London, it's so multicultural. There are so many different versions of it. I think it's about intention behind anything. And that's kind of what then leads into good manners for me. But you're the expert, so...
That'll come to the next time. We've got a few minutes left. So, Lara, 2 questions here. How would you advise your younger person
well, advice to my younger self.
Correct, take yourself.
Wow.
Or perhaps to me, yeah.
Well, I think that just go for it.
Excellent.
Really, just go for it, and that's it.
No
Just
fear.
do it. Yes. Well, self-belief and just believe that you're strong and just believe in yourself.
Excellent. Ellie,
I would probably give the same advice of do it and talk to people about it, learn. That's what we're all here for, gaining knowledge and learning along the way. And how better to do that than by talking to people that have already done it or have something to share. My gallery definitely wouldn't be where it was now if Lara hadn't been kind enough to mentor me throughout the process.
Fantastic.
She's been invaluable and I'm very lucky to have met her.
before we finish, how can someone find you both? Where?
Well, I'm very approachable. I have a Instagram profile, LinkedIn profile, I have website, I have email. We are working on a very special project that soon have to be released, and it will be spectacular. It will be just international and global and will attract a lot of attention and a lot of brands. So you're very welcome. Follow us.
Excellent. And there's a few of them coming up soon. So please check out Lara LinkedIn, Lara Julian. And Ellie, where can we find you?
Yes, so as I said, the Wow Wow Gallery is rebranding. So we're actually soon to be House of Wow. And we're going to be a creative society. So whether it will be looking at joining us, as a member, or just following our socials, which is currently the Wow Wow Gallery, but it will be House of Wow.
Excellent. Ellie, it's been a pleasure having
Thank
you here.
you
Manners
very
Maketh Mic.
much, Eric.
Lara, it's been wonderful having you here. Like I always said, etiquette isn't old-fashioned. Manners isn't old-fashioned. They are powerful thoughts in our daily life. Manners Maketh Mic, brought to you by the British Political Academy. And I'm your host, Eric Francis Manu. Until then, stay tuned.